everyone, Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to take a minute to talk to you about the exciting news that my fourth audiobook has been released and is now out there in the world of Audible. You can go to Amazon and look up Teri Wellbrock, narrator, or The Best Bedtime Stories for Stressed Out Adults, Book 2. And the other three books are The Energy Medicine Solution, The Wellness Woman, and The Best Bedtime Stories for Stressed Out Adults, Book 1. So there you go. All right, well, go check it out. I do have some download codes available if you are interested in any of those books. I've given away all of the codes for The Energy Medicine Solution in the United States. I still have 25 codes for the UK. They gave me codes for the United States and the UK. But I have codes for the other three books. So if you're interested, reach out to me at info@teriwellbrock.com. That's my email, info@teriwellbrock.com, and just say, hey, I'd love to have a code. And I will send you one. First come, first serve. All right, thanks. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I'm your host, Teri Wellbrock, and so very thrilled to have with me today Becca Ferguson. And she is a therapist, survivor, cat mom, wife, and real life human. I love that. I told her when just before we hit record, went to her website, and what a great description of your roles in life. So welcome, Becca.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, and now my washer's going to decide to spin. I just asked before, can you hear my washer spinning?
Okay.
So the whole room starts
I
to
can't
vibrate.
even hear it, so it's totally fine. Your camera isn't shaking.
Oh,
All
good.
is good. We're in a good place right now.
Awesome. So one of the things that I had seen, we met through Podmatch, which is such a great platform. I love Alex and the work he's doing there to connect us all. And so the real human part of your description. So talk to us a little bit about that and what that means, I guess, from a therapy perspective, and how you connect with the people that you guide.
So my story, as far as becoming a therapist, is not a traditional story. I actually didn't know that mental health existed until I went to college. I didn't pursue a bachelor's degree in psychology or anything of that nature because I didn't know that any of that existed. I grew up in a very conservative Christian home and because in South Arkansas as well. So we're like the belt buckle of the Bible Belt of the United States. South Arkansas is in the town that I grew up in. There's 36 churches and less than 10,000 people in the city. So if you weren't going to church, then we're one of the outcasts in the town. So that was a big part of how I was raised, was going to church, being a part of that organization. And when I went to college in Clarksville, which is about a 3-hour drive away from where I was raised. And it was kind of that place for me to find my own autonomy. I had never gotten the option to have autonomy until I went to college because everything was either what mom and dad wanted or what the church wanted. And so I experienced this lack of growth basically for like my whole entire childhood and teenage years. And so when I went to college, at that point in time, looking back now, I can say I was struggling with anxiety, depression, and an eating disorder. And I went to therapy, first time that I had ever experienced it. And the therapist was an okay therapist. We know that there's bad therapists and good therapists, and we get the opportunity to go therapist shopping. If you're listening and you don't know that you're allowed to go therapist shopping, you're allowed to go therapist shopping. And but he was all the college had. And so I talked with him a couple times. We worked through some things, but we weren't really getting anywhere type kind of stuff. I found actually more solace in the school nurse. And so I kind of talked with her a little bit more than I talked with the therapist. But I noticed that talking things out was really helpful to me. unfortunately, after my freshman year, the college ended up getting rid of the counselor that was on staff, and they decided that it was in the best interest for school, and the students to send the students to a counseling office that was in town. However, in order to get paid for by the school, you had to tell one of your peers, the resident assistants, that were on staff, what was going on with you in
Oh,
order to get paid to go to therapy, or like to have the school pay for your therapy. My parents didn't have any coverage on their insurance for mental health. And so I just balled it up all inside, didn't talk about it, didn't work through it, dated a really horrible human being, and just kind of, dove into that relationship trying to find some sense of meaning. And after I graduated, my degree is in radio, television, video, and strategic communication. And after I graduated, it was this I went back home for a little bit, tried to find like a job in the degree that I had, but you have to graduate with 5 years of experience in order to work in any sort of broadcasting. And so I was just like, I was stuck. So my only option was to become a youth minister, because that was what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And in working as a youth minister, there was these kids that were really struggling. Oh my gosh. Really, really struggling with real life issues. And I wasn't allowed to talk to them about it. I wasn't allowed to talk to them about drugs and sex and all this kind of stuff because that's not what the church believed. We weren't allowed to say safe sex. We were just saying abstinence until marriage. We weren't allowed to say, let's talk about sex education. So you're whatever, it's porn is bad, this is bad, everything's bad. And then shame, shame, shame. Women have to have control over the men, and when it comes to their bodies and all this kind of stuff, they can't reveal blah 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 blah. And I was like, I just don't believe this. I really don't. And I kind of tried to fight back a little bit. And so in the process of me doing that, the church that I was working for decided that I was unstable, and that they put me on a mental health leave. And they encouraged me to go see a therapist. I saw a therapist. He was incredible, and he encouraged me to become a therapist. And so in that process of discerning whether or not I wanted to be a therapist and going through that journey, I had a lot of different experiences in my internships and whatnot. But in going through that journey, I just was like, hey, these people need someone to talk to that gets it. And so I utilize appropriate self-disclosure when I'm working with clients, so that way they know that they're not just talking to a brick wall. Um, and I'm helping them process things, and I'm using real life examples. I'm like, yeah, I know I've been in a shitty relationship similar to that. Like, I can help you, like, let's work through it. And good percentage of the time they're like, okay, well, Becca can do it. I can do it. And I'm like, no, Becca is still doing it. Like, Becca is still actively choosing to do it. So for you, it's like it's this journey that we continue to go on, and we continue to build up resilience so that way we can work towards our end goal. So that's kind of where my real life human being stuff comes into. I talk about my struggles, I talk about the things that I've dealt with, and I try to I do that in order to kind of let go of some of the shame that and guilt that I was raised to believe about myself, so that way I can relate more to my clients.
yes. Well, one of the things that really struck out, thank you for sharing your story, but really stood out to me was the appropriate self-disclosure, because, gosh, that's where soul connections happen, right? That's
Yeah.
where, by putting our truths out there, by sharing those, even a little bit of it, people can feel not so alone. And really, that's where, yeah, that trust comes along, that
Yeah.
trust connection. So yeah, what a gift you're offering to your clients.
Well, thank you. I found that it's been really helpful. I used to be therapists aren't taught to use self-disclosure. We're taught to be a vessel, which some therapists believe very strongly that self-disclosure is bad for the therapeutic relationship. I've just seen it work so well. And so it's not like I'm over here telling my clients my deepest, darkest secrets. I'm using examples of my healing journey. Um, my struggles with mental health and not knowing that it was mental health, growing up having anxiety attacks and not knowing that they were anxiety attacks until I went to college. Like that was difficult. I was put on a heart monitor because I had a rapid heart rate and they were trying to figure it out. I was put on acid reflux medicine because my stomach hurt all the time. And I'm like, this is anxiety. Like, let's just go ahead and throw it out there. I can see that so easily now. But the thing is, like, there's teenagers and young adults out there that still don't know that that's anxiety. And then they're just taught to shove those feelings in a box and get over it. And that's just not possible. You can't get over something, you got to get through it. And in order to get through it, you got to know what you're getting through in the first place. That's why therapy is so critical, because you have someone that's guiding you and helping you understand what you're getting through in the first place.
Oh, yeah. I remember, this was, gosh, dating myself back in the 80s when my first panic attack hit. Um, it was a culmination of a lot of trauma that ended in two horrific bank robberies that I was
Mm.
involved in that were 3 months apart. And so I was sitting at my desk at the bank and had just a overwhelming, severe panic attack just hit me, and ended up going to an ER via an ambulance. And just remember the staff at the time telling me, um, it was all in your head, and just take some aspirin or take whatever and just rest. And because I, like, my head was pounding, like, boom, boom, and heart
Yeah.
racing and palm sweating, and no one said the words, panic attack or anxiety attack,
Yeah.
or and so, yeah, just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm broken, something's wrong with me.
You know, I've had similar experiences. And when I started having anxiety and panic attacks and everything my freshman year of college, one of the struggles about being a woman when you're like trying to understand your body, you're gaining your own sense of autonomy, and you're also like trying to figure out your mental health as well. There was 3 times I went to the ER. And during those 3 times, they flu tested me, they strep tested me, and I told them I'm cramping. And I never cramp this bad. And they're like, oh, you probably got some flu or strep or headache or something that was bad period or whatever it is. And after the 3rd time I went to the ER, I was like, "I am not leaving until you tell me what's going on." And sometimes they would say it was anxiety, or write it off like that. And I had a 7-inch ovarian cyst that had destroyed one of my ovaries and had like and needed to be removed. And the pain was so bad that it was making me sick. But then after I got diagnosed with anxiety, they're like, "Oh, it's just anxiety." And I was like, "Something is wrong with my body." And so I teach my clients to advocate for themselves and their physical pain and their mental pain, and to really be vocal about what it is that they need, because it's hard to be listened to. And I think that's maybe a hesitation that some people have about going to therapy, because they're like, if I get a diagnosis that says I'm anxious or I'm depressed or something is wrong with me mentally, then people will never take me seriously physically. And it's like, I'm a fully ish functioning human being that has PTSD. I have PTSD. I've gone through some serious traumas in my life. And so, yeah, there's times where I've gone to the ER for things that I'm sure were partially anxiety induced, but you have anxiety when you're in pain, And so it's like, you I teach my clients to work through some of those things and learn how to advocate for themselves, and that's ultimately how we're growing our autonomy and governing our own body. We're choosing, the people that we allow to be a part of our life.
Oh gosh, I give you a big giant hug for that, because I tell you what, being able to have a voice
Mhm,
and use that voice
mhm,
and say no. I had it happen even recently in the last couple of years. I was I became very sick very quickly
mhm.
with things just went haywire in my body, and ended up sitting across from an extremely young doctor, um, thinking, oh, this person just came out of med school, and so they're going to be on board with the latest and greatest. And as tears were welled in my eyes talking about this, the very first words out of her mouth were, oh, well, the first thing we're going to do is get you on some anti-anxiety
Oh
medication.
my gosh,
And
yeah,
I literally, because of who I am now,
mm,
held up my hand and said, you need to stop right there.
yeah,
You have no idea of my history. You don't know what I've been through, what I fought through. I am here visibly upset because it's a natural human emotion to be upset about this situation and what's going on with my body. We need to
mm,
run some labs and see what's going on. Well, it turned out I had mycotoxin poisoning, and it had affected my entire system and thrown everything off. So, yes, so being your own advocate respectfully,
yeah,
and saying no, no,
yeah,
that's not it.
it's hard. And it's hard to say no, especially when you've been taught your whole entire life to say yes.
Right.
And, that was one of the things, part of my trauma comes from years and years of abuse from my youth minister. And experiencing that, I felt guilt for the longest time for even saying that I was abused. I mean, hell, even just last week, I'm laying in bed with my husband thinking, spiraling about something. And then I was like, was I abused by my youth minister or am I making this up? And he was like, no, you were. And I was like, well, you've been told your whole entire life that you're a drama queen because you have anxiety, then it really messes with your head. And that was one of the things I can actually remember my mom buying me a shirt that said drama queen on it. And it's like, having that label of like being this dramatic human being when it's like I'm trying to express something that isn't being heard. And it's so difficult to do that with people that aren't willing to listen. So we have to surround ourselves with people that are willing to listen and are willing to hear what your story is and are willing to take a step back and, you know, be with you in that moment. And I'm grateful that my husband is one of those people. He is an incredible human being, and he actually was the one that showed me that what I was going through was abuse just by his actions and how well he treated me. I was like, hell's bells, I didn't know that a man was supposed to treat you this way. Um, and so it takes a lot, but it's a good thing,
Wow.
to be able to work through and find that.
Yeah, that's incredibly empowering. And thank you for teaching me that. It just, I love these aha moments where
Yeah,
to step back and say, oh, the the behavior where someone is then given that label of a drama queen, or someone who's a loud talker, like loud talkers get on my nerves. When I'm in a restaurant and I can hear the man 8 tables over
yep,
talking real, like, why do the rest of us want to know about the baseball team? But now I understand that was probably someone who wasn't heard, or
yeah.
you're right, had something they were trying desperately to get out.
Yeah, it was one of those things, like, I can when I started to get really anxious, my husband and we got into an argument the other night, um, or like a month or so ago. We're sitting on the couch, and one of the things that my husband and I struggle with on the daily, almost at least every week, is picking movies to watch because we do not have anything in common. He likes horror and fantasy and all that kind of stuff, and I like romantic comedies, cop shows, Like we're completely polar opposites when it comes to that. So it'll take us like 3 hours to find a movie to watch. And if we don't give ourselves like a 2 day notice and like send each other IMDb stuff, then like we're just SOL. We're not going to find anything. And so we got into this argument a couple weeks ago when we were trying to find a movie to watch. And I suggested something, and then I was trying to work it out. Like I was like, why is it making me so upset that he doesn't want to watch this one thing that I know that he'll like? I'm like, it feels like he doesn't trust me. So I'm working that out loud. And then he says to me, he was like, you need to calm down. And I was like, sir, I am calm. And he was like, you really need to calm down. And I was like, I'm fine right now. And he was like, you're obviously not fine because you're raising your voice. And I'm like, I'm trying to get you to hear what I'm saying. I'm fine. I'm just trying to work through this. And he was like, I'm not going to talk to you until you calm down. And I was like, oh my God, you are going to start a fight. Like this is about to go. We're going to start a fight. And it ended up developing into a like, you need to calm down. And he left the space. And I was like, I'm having a panic attack right now because you're not hearing that I am calm. And I was like, this is difficult. And in working through that with my therapist, one of the things is like, you had a panic attack because you were trying to say that you were calm and he wasn't listening. And then you became not calm because he wasn't listening to you when you were saying you were calm. And I was like, he always does. And she's like, so what was going on with him that day? And I was like, yeah, I probably should have checked in on that, shouldn't I? And she was like, yeah, you definitely should have. And I was like, man, this stuff is so easy to teach my clients. But when I go home, I'm like, forget everything that I've taught my clients all day. I'm just going to screw everything up. Right. And then you get these negative distortions of like, this is how I'm always going to be. I'm going to help other people, but I don't have the tools to help myself. And sometimes it can be so difficult. And when we're naturally empathetic helpers, um, it's hard to find our own healing because we don't feel like we're deserving of it. We don't feel like we're deserving of processing it and things of that nature. And that took, time for us afterwards where I was like, if I tell you that I'm calm, believe me. you know um I'm just trying to work through stuff and I'm trying to talk out loud. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. If you tell me you're calm, then I'll believe it next time. And I was like, okay, but next time really seriously believe it, okay, because I'm struggling over here. So a lot of it is about learning ways to communicate the problems that you're working through and how to function in your day-to-day life.
Oh, yeah. What a great example of that. And yes, our voice may come out louder because we're trying to be heard
Right.
and get our message, but we're
Right.
we're calm. It's just, hey, hear me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. I can remember so many times from when I was younger where I would yell and just get frustrated because I'm like, people aren't listening to what I have to say. And then you get this weird twinge like in your stomach where you're like, I have to get this person to listen to what I have to say because if if they don't, then bad things are going to happen. And that comes from your natural empathy, right? And so it takes time, it takes effort, but you can heal through it. You just have to understand what your triggers are and how to move forward with it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that. Before we move on, I just have to tell you, so our family, same sort of deal where it's everybody has all these eclectic movie tastes, right? And so we've come up with the most fun way, and we all love it and we all do it. Each of us picks three movies and then we shuffle them. One person shuffles them all behind the back.
Yeah.
And then each person picks a number and we slowly eliminate movies. And it's fun because we're like, oh, Star Wars is out. Oh, And so, and then we get down to the final two in our hands. And then, whoever has been determined, it's going to be the one to pick. All right, which one are we going to watch? And then, and it just becomes fun that way because then it's kind of like down to fate kind of deal, but it's been really awesome because then we do get to watch other movies that we
Right.
wouldn't necessarily pick, but because fate decided it.
Yes. Oh, we tried that one time with putting movies on sticky notes and putting it in a cup and then drawing
Yeah.
out of the cup. And I was like, I think we're at this point where we're now just really petty towards each other about it. And we just pick movies that we know the other person is going to hate because like we really want to watch it ourselves, but we don't want to watch it by ourselves. And so I was like, if I put more movies in the cup than he does, then we'll be able to watch one of my movies. Nope, the very first movie that I pulled out of the cup was a horror movie,
Oh,
and it was interesting, but I have a thing about watching people get stabbed in the
yeah,
face. I
I
just
can't
can't
do
do
it.
it. So I'm like, if we watch one of your movies, I have full reservations to be able to put a blanket over my head for
Yes.
like 99.9% of the movie. Um, and is we've figured out like our category is true crime. Like that's where we can really like we can do true crime. That's a good place, a solid place where we can live. Or comedies, we love The Office. And so we always go back
Yes.
and watch The Office whenever we can.
Oh, I love it. My daughter, she's way into Legos, and her boyfriend had given her the Office
Yeah.
Lego
Oh, I have
collection.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
awesome.
have like every single well, not every single. I need more office memorabilia, but I built my office is called the therapy office and it's all branded with office memorabilia. And so I have Dwight and Michael Scott and Pam and Jim quotes all over my office and my sign and everything looks like the logo of the office. Um and I have office memorabilia, puzzles, Legos, all that kind of stuff um all over the place. So yeah,
Oh,
it's a big part of um that show is a big part of actually with the tattoo that I have right here on my chest is a matching tattoo that I have with my husband and it comes from the quote where Michael is trying to tell Holly that they're soulmates, but he ends up saying soup snakes. And so we got snakes in soup for our love tattoo. So if they're watching video, then they know like you can be soup snakes and soulmates at the same time. So
that is so fantastic. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
I'm gonna have my daughter listen to this episode because just for that, she will
Yes.
connect with you.
Yeah, for
That is
sure. I love
wonderful.
it.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give you the opportunity certainly to talk about anything that you feel moved to talk about.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do as a therapist, I can only practice therapy inside of the state of Arkansas. So I decided to expand over this past year and I started coaching and do mental health coaching. And that allows me to diversify, a lot of stuff. My niche, the people that I work well with are female helpers. And I love to help women work through the stigmas that our world has. When Roe v. Wade was overturned last year. That was one of the things where it's like I had all these women coming to my office. They're like, we can't be heard anymore. Like, this is the end. It's going backwards. And so I heard that and I educated myself and understanding about how important women empowerment is. And so a lot of the stuff that I offer is geared towards women. It's on my website. You can find a lot of different resources. I have online courses. I have one on the window of tolerance, which is about fight, flight, freeze response. Another one, which is on the wise mind, which is a DBT skill, dialectical behavioral therapy. It teaches you about the difference between your emotional brain and your reasonable brain. I have another one that's about SMART goals, which is traditionally used for weight loss, but I use it in this course for emotional regulation. And then my favorite one is self-care versus self-comfort. That's my absolute favorite course. And um, each of these courses, they have like a 30-page workbook, and it has a 30-minute video, which is full of gifs and animations and all sorts of fun things. Um, so they can definitely go on there. The courses are only $27. And so my goal is to have ease of access to mental health care. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to get your therapy from this podcast because you're scared to go to therapy, you can go on my website and you can look at these online courses and you can get another perspective from my online courses as well, and give you a little bit of an idea of what to expect. And then if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I'm really angry and I need to work through some of those emotions, I also have a fully online anger management course as well. And that course can be used for court purposes. And so if you know of anybody that's been sent to court because they got too angry, then they can also go onto my website and do that too. I'm starting different coaching programs as well for women and self-esteem, and I'll be doing one on religious trauma coming up in the next year or so. And so I have a lot of stuff that's going on, and I'm excited to continue to release it and let people know what's going on. So they can follow me on social. I'm on every single social as at Becca Ferguson LPC. I'm also on my website is beccafergusonlpc.com. And so you can find a lot of different resources on my website.
Wonderful. As a quick little PS, one of the things that I had seen when reviewing your profile on Podmatch was, what if you have different political and religious beliefs than your clients? Like me, I'm adamantly pro-life, but working with people who are pro-choice, and so many of my dear friends are, and we have wonderful conversations about our different philosophies. And I love when folks can come together and talk open-heartedly and just embrace one another's viewpoints. But so how do you handle if someone's coming to you and they're just from such a polar opposite point of view from you?
So it's not my job to change anybody's mind, first of all. And it's not my job to make people believe what I believe. Like I said, I was raised in a very conservative Christian place. And so that was something that I believed for a really long time, was the ideas of pro-life. And the more that I grew into understanding my own body and my own autonomy, um, when I had my ovary removed from that surgery, I was told I'm going to go through menopause early. It's going to be extremely difficult for me to get pregnant. And if I do get pregnant, then it's going to likely result in miscarriages. And it's also, I can have stillbirths and I can have a lot of complications as far as my own body. And that was something that I was like, I need to think about other people that are around me as well. And I need to think about my body and my life and what I serve for my clients and what I serve for other people, especially with my family. And so it was my clients were the ones that helped me see perspective. Growing or working in Arkansas, I have a lot of conservative clients. And so there's a lot of times where I'm like, let's just look at perspective here. And I help clients understand perspective. I've had clients that have come to me where their children come out of the closet and they're like, I don't believe in this. And I'm like, but do you believe in your kid? And so a lot of it is not necessarily about beliefs, but it's about understanding human perspective. And so I work really hard to be the advocate for women and for people that don't have a voice, and understanding the struggles that I'm going to have with my own body. That was something that I was like, I don't want my husband to have to make a really awful choice or have to raise a child on their own because I can't get the health care that I need, because a child's life is more important than mine. And so that was something that I had to do a lot of discernment for my own and understand all points. And so I worked through that, but it's never my place to tell a client what to believe. And I think that even when I do have clients with very, different views than me that come into my office, they know who they're talking to, and they know, my opinions, but I'm not over here trying to convert them, I'm just trying to challenge to help them see different perspectives. I don't want you to change your beliefs, but I want you to understand that there's different perspectives and that everyone is entitled to their opinion, and I respect that with other people, and I just ask that, they respect that with me too.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing your insights on that because,
Yeah.
yeah, that's something we've never touched upon here on the show. So thank
Yeah,
you.
of course.
All right. Well, it's just been so enlightening. I know I've learned a lot, and thank you for sharing
Of course.
your beautiful work.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on the show. And if anybody ever wants to reach out, like I said, it's Becca Ferguson, LPC.com, and I hope to connect with you guys.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock again. Just wanted to thank you for listening to the episode today and remind you to visit my website as well, teriwellbrock.com. You can sign up for my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, which is also jam-packed with information and strategies and blog pieces and guest blog pieces and links to shows. Thanks for, again, being here and being a part of this healing space. I very much appreciate you. All right. Bye-bye.